some celebrity mediums fooling their audience members by reading social media pages in advance? A group of online vigilantes is out to prove it. When you're setting up fake Facebook pages, it's the little details that can mess things up. On a group computer call last winter, Susan Gerbic was going through her checklist of tips for her team's latest sting operation. This one focused on infiltrating the audience of a psychic. It all started with maintaining their Facebook sock puppets, those fake online profiles. American spellings everyone, she commanded her half-dozen international colleagues through the Skype crackle. Gerbic lives in Salinas, Calif, and while she is retired from the routine world of work, she has taken on a new job, as self-appointed guardian of Enlightenment Reason. She spends most of her days wrangling her far-flung group of guerrilla skeptics into common cause, defending empirical truth online. This usually consists of editing and monitoring Wikipedia pages, a cat-herding task she says she's uniquely qualified for. I was a baby photographer, she explained. I ran a JCPenney portrait studio for 34 years. Collectively, the group, which has swelled to 144 members, has researched, written or revised almost 900 Wikipedia pages. Sure, they take on the classics, like debunking spontaneous human combustion, but many of their other pages have real-world impact. For instance, they straightened out a lot of grim hooey about the teen suicide myth, blue whale game, and they have provided facts about the Brzezinski Clinic, a theoretical treatment for cancer operating out of Houston. Most recently, Gerbic's members have focused on what they call grief vampires, that is, the kind of middlebrow psychics who profit by claiming to summon the dead in shows in venues ranging from casinos or any old Motel 6 conference suite to wine vineyards or the Queen Mary permanently anchored in Long Beach. Some regional favorites may sound familiar: Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, or Chip Coffey, the clairvoyant, clairaudient and clairsentient psychic. These are good, extremely profitable days for the ectoplasm-related industry. According to one market analysis, there are nearly 95,000 psychic businesses in America, generating some $2 billion in revenue in 2018. Lately, technology has changed the business of talking to the dead and created new kinds of openings for psychics to lure customers, but also new ways for skeptics to flip that technology right back at them. For instance, many psychics still rely on cold readings, in which the psychic uses clues, like your clothes or subtle body signals, to make educated, but generally vague, guesses about your life and family. But the internet has popularized a new kind of hot reading, in which the psychics come to their shows prepped with specific details about various members of the audience. One new source of psychic intel is Facebook, which has become a clearinghouse for the kind of insider, personal detail that psychics used to have to really sweat for. If anything, the psychics have just gotten lazier, a team member told me. The crew invited to last winter's Skype meeting had been vetted by Gerbic to participate in a mission called Operation Peach Pit, and I was invited to observe. On my computer screen, we resembled the opening credits of The Brady Bunch, a tic-tac-toe board of men and women ranging from Daniel in New Zealand, Ruth in London, Kimon in Alabama, Robert in Maine and Michelle near Humpty Doo, Australia. Matthew Fraser, the target, is a young Long Island psychic who resembles Tom Cruise in the role of an oversharing altar boy. He has been on the circuit for years, has a book under his belt and works some Doubletree or Crowne Plaza back room every 2 or 3 days. These guerrilla skeptics are hoping to catch Fraser on tape spewing intimate Facebook details that are totally false about the person the psychic is addressing. In fact, the details aren't true about anyone, because they will be entirely fabricated by people like Michelle of Humpty Doo. At this stage, on this Skype call, the group's only task is to create and maintain these fake Facebook profiles. These need to look normal, with regular updates of, say, a good New Yorker cartoon or a gif of Will Ferrell dancing, along with vintage Polaroid pics or posts expressing sly life sentiments, still a little pissed I can't fly or set things on fire with my mind. Post often, post cat pictures, memes, favorite foods, recipes, Gerbic urged through the crackle and pop, and to ensure they don't get caught too easily, make sure the pictures aren't too Google searchable. The Facebook pages are meant to be catnip. We want the target to see $signs, not question marks, said Mark Edward, a mentalist and magician who collaborates with Gerbic in organizing these operations. When the Facebook pages have aged enough to look real and the target psychic is in a town where some of Gerbich's crew lives, she will call upon others of her SWAT team to leave their screens, don undercover identities of these Facebook sock puppets and head out into the mean streets of the corporeal sphere. The sting intends to catch the hustlers working their tricks, but Gerbich's strategy also includes luring these most susceptible of audiences back into the ways of logical thought. To do this, she sends 4 or 5 of her shills to a show under these sock puppet names and has them record the psychic when he approaches and spews all the made-up stories of life and death from the fake Facebook pages. Once the psychic has been stung, the team will write up an account and then post the evidence, video or sound, onto a website dedicated to a particular debunking mission, which Gerbich gives a memorable name. In future events, other skeptics can simply slip into performances and just leave cards with these odd operation names printed on them. That's why I do my stings with names that are ridiculous: Operation Bumblebee, Operation Ice Cream Cone, Operation Pizza Roll, she said. They're all easy to spell and easy to remember. So even if you throw the card away, you might remember Operation Pizza Roll, and you'll say, you know what, I've got a couple of minutes before the show starts, I'm going to see what this Operation Tater Tot is all about. Then you'll work your way to Gerbich's write-up about the psychic you are about to see and, just maybe, find yourself in a thicket of contradictions so intense, you can escape only by thinking. Busting psychics has a history almost as rich as the rise of modern psychic belief, somewhere around the mid-19th century. Of course, there has always been a general sense that there exists a supernatural gift for seeing into the future, the present, sometimes called remote viewing, or the past, that is, communicating with the dead. The hope that this power exists reaches back to some of the earliest civilizations, the court seers of the Egyptians, the Oracle of Delphi just north of Athens, the bone-reading shaman of ancient China. Among the more recent big shifts in how we conceive of supernatural communication occurred around the time of Charles Darwin, when there was an explosion of secular interest in the numinous, called spiritualism. This new popular pursuit found an audience across all classes and denominations. While the poor sought out their corner soothsayer, the smart set was happy to ponder the works of a Russian mystic named Madame Blavatsky, whose theosophies were a kind of modern mash-up of religion, science and philosophy. In fact, a lot of this interest took the form of science, people trying to measure these various powers or to discuss the supernatural in sober, logical tomes. These were the days when you might read the other books written by Sherlock Holmes's creator, Arthur Conan Doyle, a member of the London-based Society for Psychical Research who died insisting that he would rather be remembered for his paranormal works such as The New Revelation and The Vital Message than for his Sherlock Holmes detective stories. And throughout this rise of interest, there was a parallel rise in debunkers. The poet Robert Browning once exposed the mid-19th century Scottish psychic, Daniel Home, who claimed to conjure the spirit of Browning's infant son, who died young. Except Browning hadn't lost a son. Worse, the poet lunged at the apparition to unmask it and found himself clutching Home's bare foot. Helen Duncan was found to swallow a length of cheesecloth, which she could produce dramatically from her mouth as ectoplasm. During an early 20th century séance, Frederick Munnings deployed a long voice-altering trumpet across the room, a clever tactic undermined one night when someone accidentally switched on the light. The idea of talking with the dead is one of those stubborn hopes that's difficult for a culture to move beyond. Famous skeptics like Harry Houdini left precise instructions with his wife and friends as to just how he would reach out, if it were possible, after his death. Stanley Kubrick, in talking about his movie The Shining with Stephen King, confessed that he found optimism in stories about the supernatural. If there are ghosts, that means we survived death, he explained. Gerbich got into the sting racket because of her mentor, James Randi, the famous skeptic who started his career as a magician, the Amazing Randi. After he began busting paranormal con artists as a hobby, Randi won a MacArthur grant that he leveraged into a variety of different venues, including annual ship cruises filled with skeptics, called The Amazing Adventure. On a 2009 voyage to Mexico, Gerbich met Edward, who was on board as the skeptic's entertainment. Edward himself is a mentalist and claims no powers other than to entertain. He once posed as an undercover clairvoyant to infiltrate the Psychic Friends network, which became popular as late-night infomercials that offered psychic readings over the phone in the 1990s. For another Psychic Friends spin-off radio program, he climbed the heights of the organization and became the backup to the show's master psychic. Edward wrote a book about his clandestine life as a medium, Psychic Blues. After they became friends, Gerbic and Edward found themselves griping to each other that skeptics had become too much of a closed group, too often just patting each other on the back. Skeptics groups, Gerbic told me, always seemed to be bogged down by bureaucracy and rules, and she really wanted to do something and stop talking about it.